Chris, you mentioned that there was a Palantir competitor a couple months ago. And this Palantir competitor was one of the reasons why Cathie Wood sold 37 million shares of the stock. And you did a lot of digging and you found out that this competitor was called DataWalk. There was an article that came out this week called Palantir, Why Investors Need to Watch Out for DataWalk. Okay. And I read through the entire article, and basically Alan Greathouse, very interesting name, basically said that DataWalk is doing everything that Palantir does. They have better margins. They cost a lot less. And, they're going to eat Palantir's lunch. How do you feel as the resident bear on this podcast about DataWalk and Palantir's competition growing and potentially doing a lot of this governmental stuff for cheaper than Palantir?
I told you so. Now,
this is crazy, bro. The fact that you found this company and now it's like kind of the Palantir competitor. It's insane, right?
No, I mean, look, everyone is gonna have versions of a product out there that exists that they can deliver at a cheaper price. That's more niche, right? So the perfect example that I would give you is a Ferrari versus a Toyota, right? While everyone wants to have the newest Ferrari with all these features that can go from 0 to 100, not everyone needs a Ferrari. A lot of times people just need a Toyota, get them from point A to point B. And if you can bring up a compelling argument why people should buy your Toyota versus Palantir's Ferrari, people will say, sure, why not? Why am I going to pay Palantir $5 million, $10 million for a license and then have to do all this other stuff? Or I could just go to DataWalk and they'll provide me a service that is equivalent in outcome to what Palantir is charging so much for. I'm not saying that that's going to dramatically make the Fortune 500 shift over to DataWalk, but there are definitely smaller companies, smaller agencies, even within government space, that actually see DataWalk as an alternative, in which case, guess what? They'll go with them. So right now that might affect Palantir a little bit. But I am going to take one step back and say, I don't think DataWalk is that company. It's probably Databricks. As I do more research and I look at a lot of the offerings that Databricks has, they're very similar to what Palantir has, right? And on top of it, they're executing really, really well. And they're a private company, right? So I would keep my eyes on Databricks, not DataWalk. Even though DataWalk, and it's funny because half of their presentations actually mention Palantir being a direct competitor.
Matt, any thoughts on Databricks?
I know nothing about Databricks, but the fact that, and this kind of goes back to some of the things that I listen to, whether it's podcasts or whether it's consultants or whatever, the fact that Databricks is focusing on Palantir in their investor presentations means that they're likely to fail.
DataWalk,
either one. I mean, if you're focusing on your competition, yes, it needs to be consideration. Maybe you learn from them a little bit, but you need to be focused on the product. And the product is what's actually going to get into the people's hands. So the fact that they're actually, targeting Palantir in some sort of way means that they're focusing more on beating the competition, which they're literally just going to try to copy and imitate. At the end of the day, they need to be focused on creating their own products. I don't know anything about them though. So, I could be completely off base by that, but that's the same thing with what a lot of tech companies have done in the past. And that's why some of them never really survived and they've become more historic rather than continued to innovate like the Microsofts and the Apples of today.
So two things before Chris, you go. Sachin says Databricks has 25% of Palantir revenue and 2x the valuation. And this was my thing, Chris. I was saying on the morning stream on Monday, you said if Databricks goes public, you're selling half your Palantir and buying Databricks. They're already valued at $37 billion. If they go public, it's at least at $50 billion. So Palantir's at $20 billion. How can you walk us through how you're thinking about wanting to get into Databricks, even with the valuation that they have?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, Databricks is growing much, much faster. They have a wider breadth of commercial customers, and they're literally being invested in by the likes of Google, Amazon, and Microsoft, and Salesforce, right? The founders there are on another level in terms of executing. All you have to do is just watch the Data Walk Summit that they had recently, and you'll understand the value proposition for what Databricks has. They're doing everything I wish Palantir was doing in order for execution. I was reading this book by Frank Slootman this week. I bought it, and there's actually two books that I got from him. One was directly talking about Snowflake. Another one was talking about more of a how to run a business, especially something like a SaaS business called Amp It Up. He just released it in January. And let me tell you something. The the one key thing that I came away with from the second book that made absolute sense to me was how company founders are built for a different type of business, and then how other people are built for different types of execution, right? Very few times are we going to see the founder be the guy who does the best in terms of execution. Each one is suited towards different things. So if you look at Frank Slootman was not the founder of Snowflake. He was
Yeah.
hired afterwards, right?
Yeah.
He was able to grow that business tremendously, right? Because he's all about execution, execution, execution. When you look at Palantir, they've had Alex Karp running the place for 17 years, right? The entire 17 years, even he's described himself that he's missed these industry trends, right? And when I look at that, I say, okay, how do you correct for that, right? How do we know that Alex Karp is not going to miss the next big trend? I can't trust it. I really can't. Executives sometimes they know they are who they are and they are able to capitalize on stuff. Another thing that I really liked about how Frank Slootman's approach was that they have a very streamlined approach in terms of dealing with new products and new ideas. Everyone, like literally the smallest person at the ground at Snowflake can go up to the top and go right to them and say, hey, listen, I think your idea is stupid. I think this idea is better. And what ends up happening is people will actually listen to that person and they'll actually make a business decision based on that feedback. One of the things that's been negative about Palantir is that when I look at some of the reviews that I see on Glassdoor, and I also look at some of the stuff on Blind, it seems that these guys have this almost like the siloed structure even among their own company where people can't talk to other people. Like they have people who've been Palantirians, quote unquote, from the beginning, so they're like infallible, so that if someone new comes in and says, hey, I have a better idea how to do this, or we should be looking into this, they get swatted down saying, who are you to tell me? I've been doing this longer than you have, right? I've been here since the beginning. That kind of business operation is why you miss a lot of the big opportunities that come around. And so, like I said, right now, Palantir, for the life of me, I don't know why they haven't opened up their platform to some of the changes that need to be made in order to grow their business. And I think that's the problem that Palantir has. I think their technology is good. I've looked over it. I think at this point, it's a problem with execution.
But you're not buying Snowflake, right?
I am actually, after this earnings, considering starting a DCA position in Snowflake. That one and Datadog, because they have some really cool products and they have great execution. They've got market leadership behind it, right? And their valuations have come down to a point where it actually does make sense in investing in them for the long haul.
Would you actually be able to, because you could barely buy some puts on Palantir and stomach it? Like, would you be able to take money out of it and put it into those?
I had 50 puts, bro. It wasn't a small amount.
You said it was a small amount, or it wasn't?
No, it wasn't a small amount. It was almost 50 puts. Like,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. You couldn't stomach that, right? So like,
yeah.
how could you stomach buying Snowflake over Palantir, knowing?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. You mean because it's $100 stock? It's like
no, it's not even that. It's more so like I feel like you, like all of us, have a little bit of an emotional connection with Palantir, and if you could barely buy puts over the weekend because you were afraid of what might happen, like, would you be able to buy other competitors to Palantir just because you believe in their management over Palantir?
Yeah, of course. Because at the end of the day, there could be multiple winners. No one is saying that Palantir is the only winner, or Snowflake is the only winner, or Databricks is the only winner. You know, you can have multiple winners in an industry that's so young right now. Like, literally,
it is a very young industry, and I think the thing that needs to be recognized, though, is that this is truly only the second inning for Palantir. The first inning was the first 14 years when they were developing the software that they were using to get into the Department of Defense and stuff of the like. And they've only truly just started hiring salespeople. And we already saw in Q1 that their revenue in U.S. commercial and everything of the like was over 100% increase in customer count and revenue just in one quarter alone, year over year. So, and that's just by hiring a few salespeople, right? Now that they're actually starting to ramp up, I think you're going to see a very different magnitude of revenue growth coming through the company. We've seen continued sales come in. The contract that was just released, I forget what it was a not you covered it.
It was the Army Research Labs
$99.9 million contract, and I still don't believe that they've announced all the contracts for the year that are the big game changers that they were kind of looking for. So I completely understand why they have the 25% growth in the sale, or sorry, just the employees in general. But you look at the net dollar retention of any of these. So that now you've increased the amount of customers that you have substantially quarter over quarter, and the net dollar retention from those customers is over 100% year over year. That means not only are they retaining their customers, but they're also gaining revenue from each customer that they had last year on the order of, depending on if it's a U.S. government contract or U.S. commercial contract, 30 to 50% year over year. I mean, that's pretty substantial. It goes to show you why they need to increase headcount. And 25% seems like a lot, but if you looked at Google year over year from Q2 to Q2, they went from 142,000 to like 172 or 175,000. That's a 20% increase year over year. So yeah. I like the fact that they're investing through the cycle, right? Companies that are in good financial shape invest through the cycle. They don't have a lot of debt, if any, to have to worry about. So they don't have to maintain anything like that. Investing through the cycle is and you said it earlier, Chris. I mean, investing through the cycle is prudent in an environment where everyone else is pulling back.